what can be really helpful here is to give people a framework for thinking about that. So looking at a context under the headings of social factors, biological factors, activity-related factors, and factors relating to the physical environment.
And welcome to the Success Mindset YouTube channel, and I'm delighted to be joined again by Nick Barratt. Hello Nick, how are you?
I'm very well. Hi Damien.
And Nick, as we know from these videos, is a behavioural analyst, and we've been really keen to get Nick's input on a various array of topics, because it really understands what are called the functions of behaviours and can give some really deep insights as to how we can better understand ourselves, so we can have far more authentic relationships, better quality of life outcomes as we travel through life. So we're going to be having a chat. So rather than the sort of question and answer series that we've done on the other videos, we're going to be talking about fundamental attribution bias. And I realise this is not a term that a lot of viewers would have ever probably come across, but essentially in behavioural research, fundamental attribution bias is the difference between how we explain our own behaviours and how we explain others' behaviours. And the reason that I'm talking to Nick today, and I mean, I know Nick, this is something you know a great deal about, and you've got a lot of experience working in behavioural analysis, is that, you know, if we can better understand other people's behaviours and where they're coming from, it can really enhance the quality of relationships, can't it? It can really enhance what we do and how we interact with other people.
Absolutely, yes.
And I was just wondering, Nick, if you can give some examples of where people have been able to understand other people's behaviours better and it's had a dramatic impact on the quality of those relationships.
What's key for me with attribution bias is it involves us coming up with stories that explain another person's behaviour, which may or may not be true, but they are essentially constructed stories. So if you think about what it is that governs our own behaviour in any given moment, there's what's going on directly around us. So it's the person that we're speaking with, it's the person we may be arguing with, but there are the thoughts that are running through our heads. So there's the filter through which we interpret these events. And I think for me, that's the key issue with fundamental attribution bias, that what this can result in is us responding to an event that isn't just the event in itself, but it's this interpretation, it's this story around it, which 9 times out of 10 isn't actually going to prompt us to respond in the most helpful way. So I think as a behaviourist, what the challenge I think is to find a way to be aware of the stories that we create in order to explain someone else's behaviour, and to try to find a way to put them aside and respond more directly to what we see.
And I guess, you know, when we think about others' behaviour, you know, you're coming from a very unique viewpoint, Nick, in that, you know, your background is behavioural analysis, and, you know, I've worked for many years with people with what are called behaviours of concern as well, and we're very attuned to thinking about other people's behaviours in this way and understanding what are called the functions of behaviour, because every behaviour in life, good or bad, serves a function for someone.
Yes.
Although it may not seem like it serves a function. You know, if for example, someone self-harms, to people that have never self-harmed, you would think that is probably a very, very strange behaviour, and you probably couldn't really ever grasp why someone might do that, but it actually serves a function for them. And as a society, I think we become very attuned to passing things off like that as, those people just need help. We don't give the behaviours maybe the credence that they should have. We don't really delve into the functions. And I guess, your background would be looking at why people do what they do, really understanding it, so they can then build those positive behaviours to have a far greater quality of life. And I just wondered, if you've ever worked with families more specifically, maybe a family of someone that might self-harm, and how you've helped them better understand the functions of someone's behaviour, so they get a much greater insight, and so that quality of life for the individual can become enhanced.
Yeah, and how I've approached that is first to convey exactly what you just said, that behaviour has a function, even if it seems bizarre. So your example was a good one. Someone physically hurting themselves. The instinctive response is to say, why would someone do that? It was actually one of the things that got me interested in behavioural science in the first place. It was that very situation. And so the first thing is to understand that behaviour serves a function, and that it can be helpful to think of that function as communicating something. So it's not necessarily intentional, but we often think of behaviour as a method of communication that lets people get some kind of need met. Now that need might be quite automatic. So some interesting research some years back on students who were getting ready to take exams, and a small percentage of those students were engaging in self-harming behaviours. So nothing too damaging, but cutting themselves, sort of quite superficial cuts. And when they were asked about this, they said that it made the anxiety relating to the exam go away for a short period. So that's an example of not just taking it at face value, not just thinking, oh, it's bizarre. Maybe they're mentally ill, trying to explain it away that way, but actually looking at, well, maybe there's a reason for this. And if we can understand it, then we can come up with a constructive way of doing something about it, rather than just applying a label. So in answer to your question, it's helping people understand that behavior has a function. Then it's looking into helping people understand the contexts, the types of contexts that can lead to some kind of behavior of concern. So what can be really helpful here is to give people a framework for thinking about that. So looking at a context under the headings of social factors, biological factors, activity-related factors, and factors relating to the physical environment. So what's going on socially in the situation that's associated with, for example, self-harm, or with a particular behavior? Yeah, is it happening with a particular person? Is it happening after interacting with a particular person? Is it if the person is criticized? Is it if the person has a difficult discussion with a family member, and so on? Biologically, did they get a good night's sleep? Are they in pain? The physical environment, is it in noisy, busy places? And finally, the activity. What is it that the person's doing at that particular time? Because all of these things can help us understand what it is that is leading to particular behavior. In answer to your question, the key strategy is to give people the tools for understanding the situations that prompt the behavior and the function that it serves.